Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are so excited to have our next guest joining us today, Reverend Micaela Córdoba joining us today. And she's from New York, and there are so many different services that she's going to help us with today. Maybe you're going to be listening today and you want to be free and get rid of that pain, that trauma, that disease, that addiction, whatever it is. She's mobile and ready to help you. We're excited to learn more about you and, of course, the services you provide. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Jill. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for supporting me in my first official podcast with this network.
Well, Micaela, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. And I know we're going to talk today about all that you do. I mean, from working with people with PTSD, from tarot, numerology, there's a lot to you. So how would I describe you? Are you an empath, intuitive? Are you, you tell me who you are.
Well, this has been the question very much on the communication and the topic of late, as I am currently building a community around me for my business. My name is Reverend Micaela Córdoba L. I am a shaman by training and a medical
Okay.
intuitive.
Wow.
My background was in Western medicine, and I began my training as a Western medical student. I was studying to be a cardiologist. My interest was in being of service from a very young age. I had a very interesting and multi-formatted upbringing in that I am a Panamanian American, first generation, and my parents emigrated here from Panama, along with my grandparents and my tios, my aunts and my tias, my uncles and aunts. And they raised my family here in Brooklyn, New York.
Hmm.
I was born on the West Coast, actually. I'm originally a Californian, Oceanside, San
Ah,
Diego
wow.
area, and relocated here around the age of 8 to live with my extended family after my parents decided to part ways. I would describe myself as a energetic and alchemical practitioner. So essentially, what I work with and how I work is I work in the universe of the other universe. I don't actually work on this third dimensional plane. I work in the fourth and fifth or alternate dimension. And accessing those realms, I bring the support of my ancestral line, which is the Moorish line. I'm a Moor. And my line is as a result
Wow.
rooted in the mystery schools. Energetically, we brought everything that everybody now uses in their common life, like astronomy, navigation, tarot, crystal
Energy
work, uh,
healing.
everything that falls under the auspices of complementary alternative medicine have the rooting is in my ancestral line and my ancestors. So
Wow.
my description is usually falling under the communication of, complementary alternative medicine or traditional complementary medicine. People call it TCM, traditional Chinese medicine.
Hmm.
I am multi-ethnic, so Asiatic, African, white, and Black. Latin is my ethnic derivation. And I am very interested in the challenges that I've experienced while being here post-COVID in a very major city, practicing as an urban shaman, what it is to actually bring a alternative approach to the challenges, the traumas, the issues that have come up for a
Hmm.
lot of people for their mental and emotional health here in a very urban, very intensely dense community and energy. So that's a big nut, but that kind of is the scope in
Okay.
which I operate. And
Impressive.
yeah, I mean, thank you. Thank you. So this is my 25th year in active practice. And my second year that I'm transitioning to business. It's been very challenging as the transition from practice work or practitioner to being a formalized business. And I put that in air quotes because it's it's very strange when people go, "Oh, what's your job?" And I'm like, I'm a shaman. They're like, but
But
wait
it's
a minute, but you live in New York. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, I'm not on the side of the mountain and I don't have a whole bunch of
mm-hmm.
goats, but this is where I am. So Great Spirit told me to go where I'm planted and to work where I'm planted. So I landed here at the top of COVID, and I've kind of been here for the last 4 years. And as my heart shirt says, I'm trying to bring the Moon Eye medicine, Moon Eye being unconditional love medicine, traditional love medicine, to the communities who are very overwhelmed by trauma and fear and, I would say, mental and energetic illness is the most common thing that I've noticed amongst professionals and community members here in New York City and the surrounding tri-state area. Um, so yeah, I would say that I am a reverend because I'm bringing the communication of traditional talk or
Okay.
traditional shaman therapy through the communication of my ordination through the
Okay.
Universal Life Church ministry.
Wow.
And I've been a reverend for 13 years actually this year. And on the healer's path for 40 years. So it's been a long time.
Amazing. Well,
I'm
thank you for being here.
Thank
My
you.
goodness. Ah, okay.
Thank
Well,
you for
how do
having
we
me.
reach you? What's your website?
Well, that's what I'm working on. So
Oh,
hopefully by the
okay.
next time I come back, I'll have an
Okay.
official website.
Great.
I gave you guys the link to my working website, which is micaelacordova.wordpress.com. And thankfully I realigned with a very old community ally and friend who is also really amazing in what he does in helping people brand and create their logo and put together their social media support and all of those good business like things.
Okay.
So we are currently working on that. I sent you guys the link, but it's I could also be found on LinkedIn because I've actually been on LinkedIn for as long as I've been in professional work, which is 18 years. So
Perfect.
you could find me on LinkedIn, Reverend Micaela Cordova, and those are the two best websites for me at this time.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And boy, oh boy, we have a lot to talk about here. There's so much that you have to offer, like seasonal cleanses, numerology. Where did you want to start? I mean, there's so this is your path, your journey. What do you think people want to know about most with the work that you're doing and how you could, of course, be of service?
Well, it's so interesting that you ask that in that way because usually, truly, because usually in terms of being of service, somebody has to want support. They
True.
really not only, I have a mentee that I'm working with right now, and she, what's so beautiful about working with, I'd like to say, students or people who are seeking enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
seeking connection on in their path of creative and energetic upliftment. They are like, oh well, she said to me, she's like, I'm ready to evolve. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, okay.
You're like,
I
all
was like,
right.
okay. I'm like, yeah. I was like, evolution. I was like, that's a very good word to digest what it is that the impact of connecting with somebody like me, and it doesn't have to be me. I mean, if you can find, and if you're seeking, when people are seeking, the phrase goes, when the student is seeking, the master shall appear, the teacher shall appear. So,
God bless.
we are
Mm-hmm.
all we are all blessed with gifts and talents, and my gifts and talents are rooted in my empathy. They're rooted in my clairvoyance, my clairsentience. They're rooted in my clairaudience. All of that basically means I see and hear things that are not on this third dimensional plane. So as a result, my medical intuitive technique, because I was trained and being trained in medicine, I see the physical body and I see what's going on with somebody metaphysically, energetically, the root of where a pain or illness may be coming from. And that usually happens after I have an opportunity to speak with them. I
Okay.
have a 40 questionnaire, 40, a little ticker tape of, your history. And I provide this patient an energetic questionnaire like a doctor would ask you to fill out, your form when you go into the doctor's office.
True. Okay.
And after the questionnaire is filled out, the questionnaire is completed. And at that point, we have a 30 to 45-minute consultation, where we get on the phone, where we sit in person, which is my preference.
Yeah.
And, that service is a paid service as well. But after that service, at that juncture, I am able to digest whether or not you are ready to take your healing or your trauma out of its rootedness in your body or your consciousness. And at that point, we figure out what is the best approach for you in particular. Everybody is different. I don't have the communication of going, well, it's $49.95 and here
Right.
you
I
go.
know.
I'm gonna
I know.
stamp it,
This
and
is,
a lot of this is the challenge.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get
yeah.
it. Yeah.
A lot of what is going on in terms of our consumer-based
Is.
society is
Mm-hmm.
we are so rooted in, oh, well, I'm going into the store, I'm just going to come out with oranges, or I'm going to
Yep.
come out with a new sweater. And the work of what it is to transform an illness or transform a dis-ease
Got
is
it.
to look
A
at
disease. Yep.
the
Love how you
cause
say that. Right. Mm-hmm.
of that dis-ease, and then determine what is the best approach for you. Is it a seasonal cleanse, which right now at the start of spring, I am accepting new patients and new potential clients as well, and discovering if the seasonal cleanse is the best approach for you to create a tabula rasa or clean slate in your energetic and luminous energy field,
Got
where
it.
we will look at all of the chakra balance needs, all of the chakra systems, 7 core of them, but we have so many more that are either being presented or not presented. But those 7 core chakra points hold on to energy and
Yep.
hold on to traumas or issues. That chakra rebalancing session creates an even and foundational steady starting point in which to create a new path for you if that's what you
Mm-hmm.
need. Some people are looking for something more basic, like I know that I'm not eating properly, perhaps you could help me with that. Okay, so then we look at what's in your refrigerator. We have a whole tabula rasa of your cabinets in your refrigerator, and
Yep.
after the 40 questionnaire is responded to, I'm able to then understand where your food as medicine may need to be supported. So each person is like a fingerprint, Jill, and
Got
each
it.
fingerprint is unique. We're all unique energetic bodies, and no one person is going to be a replication of another. So I can't say that everything will work for everyone,
Yep.
and that is why I'm more oriented to be I like to call myself the Jerry Maguire of shaman work. I don't do large numbers. I'm not into big groups in massive rooms where we're all, hearing the same thing. It's like, no,
But
I'm much more, nitty gritty. And I like to cultivate a communication one-on-one, or if a couple or partners are together, or best friends, or somebody that is
yep.
your sister or brother, etc. So
Beautiful. Well, at this time of the show, let's remind everyone how we could reach out to you. Would you mind sharing the best forms of contact?
sure. Again, it's Micaela Córdoba
Mm-hmm.
wordpress.com, and it's backslash services. So that lists all my services. And then you could also find me on linkedin.com /in/C Micaela. If you have LinkedIn or on it, you could just type in my name and I'll pop up. I'm pretty consistent on there. So, you could also reach out to me at my phone number, my work line. It's 347-980-6020. And I'm on Instagram, Metaphysician Mama. DM me if you like Instagram. It's Meta, META, physician like the doctor, PHYSICIAN, Mama.
Well, thank you so much for that. So to get into more depth now, the work you're doing, you're in person in New York, but you're doing virtual like this, like a Zoom call, right? You're helping a lot of your clients this way, so you can really work with someone in a whole nother country, right?
Indeed, and this is what I'd like to say about that.
Okay.
Ideally, you know, when you're working on the subtle luminous energy body, when you're working in an energetic communication, energy is based around a physical person because we are soul bodies. So ideally, you want to be able to actually initially connect with somebody one-on-one. So if somebody is serious, I'm mobile. I have a passport. I will travel. I was just in Mexico on my spiritual retreat this spring. And, I met a lot of people who I connected with from all parts of the world. And we started talking about what it was and what it is that they do. I met several people in the medical field, several people in the teacher and educational field, several people in the social services field, all from different parts of the world. And, what I think is very important to say in terms of the work that can be done virtually is that there is the challenge around not having somebody's physical energetic frequency that you're dealing with. A lot of the coaches from COVID and out of COVID have rooted their practitioner work in virtual sessions. And while I believe virtual work is possible, because energy is energy and intention is all that one needs, I like to say old school. I was trained in a very old school process around medicine. My shamanistic training is in Peruvian shamanism. So I'm working with the four winds, meaning the four corners of the earth and the world. I am rooted on Pachamama, which is the earth. And yes, we are working with several different energetic and ancestral bodies that are all rooted in the basics of what it is to shed your energy, to transform with full moons, to work with fire ceremony, to work with, sun and or water elements, all of that. These works require that you be physically in these places, not just virtually or metaphysically. So a lot of my prescriptions, as I like to call them, life prescriptions for your life, which is what happens when I work with somebody, is, oh, you need to take yourself to ABC. I need you to go to the ocean. I need you to go to the river. I need you to, wash your
Wow.
hair, wash your feet. I need you to be actively putting yourself in the process of removing or shifting your frequency. And often that requires people get physical, not just stay in their consciousness, in their mind and talk about what they want to do, but be about it, be in action, because a lot of our systems are connected to having the physical and corporal connection to releasing a trauma, to letting go of a situation or a memory, which is powerful. The mind is the only piece of technology that tells no time. The mind does not remember that you were 5 years old. If some sound or smell hits you, you are back at that 5-year-old location. You're right there again, a 5-year-old child. There's no difference in your mind's time. And it's deep because that time connection is where I sit, is where I'm residing. I step out of time with somebody to find the right loophole in which the white window that we need to jump into to remove this trauma, to remove the memory and look at it for what it is in that time, in that place. So you're not repeating yourself. You're not rehashing. You're not sitting in my chair for 10 years talking about the same thing, because that's not my intention. I don't want to
Well,
see you for 10 years talking about
could
the
you
same
share like a
thing.
client example or two of some of the people you've helped? And yeah, I just love hearing like
um
testimonials. It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's so interesting you're talking about testimonials. You know, uh the communication I think that I would like to say about, confidentiality around clients and making sure that people are aware that I'm telling story usually from my perspective, and I'm
Yeah,
speaking
and
about usually
without, you don't have
something
to share
from.
anyone's names. No, thank you.
Yes, yes, of course. But also too, what it is to come through a trauma. One of my first experiences after letting go of the student hat, because you're a student technically for a certain amount of time, and then you practice so you could become comfortable in seeing patients and or energetic clients. And one of my first clients, she had a pain in her shoulder, and she couldn't, like, she said to me, she's like, I don't know how long it's been there, but it seems like it's been there forever. And I started talking to her about the pain, and she started to describe to me that she had a trauma when she was like 10 or 11 years old, and that the trauma was her like hanging on to something, and that pain that she currently still had is she remembered was from that trauma. So we actually did I did a session with her, a cleanse with her, physical cleanse. This is while I was still residing on the West Coast. And after the cleanse and working with quantum physical techniques and technology, which I've been using for 12 or 13 years now, the session probably lasted about an hour. And after the hour, she started to come back into her body. She started to, rouse herself after, our physical healing session. And she looked at me and she just started to cry. And she was like, I don't know what you did, but the pain is gone. She's like, I don't feel it. And I was like, well, it's going to be a little weird because you've had it there for a long time, and kind of like a shadow after a headache. The headache, the shadow is still there in your brain, but the headache is left. So I'd like to say that oftentimes, an energetic session, which may last anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the challenge or the illness or the dis-ease. Often I don't have to repeat the session, but I do need to support that person with a prescription for balancing their body, both physically and energetically. Like, what will happen is it will be a process of you becoming more attuned and aware of the shift that you've had on an energetic and on a physical level. And that shift is going to be, there's going to be a ripple effect in your life. You're going to feel it not only physically, but you're going to feel it energetically and metaphysically as well. And it'll impact other people in your life, your friends, your family, your community, because you're not walking around with this trauma, with this fissure that may be in your physical body or in your luminous field, your energetic body. So, I've dealt with a lot of very deep issues, from cysts to cancer to sexually transmitted diseases, a lot of realities around, I like to call them heart traumas or heart pain. Heart pain is one of my specialities because most of my children, which is what I call you after you come to see me, they are traumatized by somebody in their family, family of origin. And I am not a family of origin, but I am a chosen family member that you're connecting with either briefly or for an extended period of time. And as a chosen family member, my responsibility is to be gentle and truthful in how I'm going to support you and your heart trauma. And as a result, those heart traumas and the ties that bind us to old patterns, to old relationships, to, ex-lovers or ex-husbands or ex-wives, we remove those links, we cut those heart ties, and we bring your energy back into yourself. We bring all of those realities that you were possibly going to be going down, relationships that you were still connecting to, we bring them back into your heart so that you are able to be fully whole and complete in the time and the moment that you're in.
Powerful. Thank you. Well, we're just about out of time for today. So we kind of have to sum up. the work you're doing, how we can contact you. Do you offer like an initial consultation if someone wants to talk to see if it would be a good fit to work with you?
Yeah, well, the initial consultation, usually if somebody reaches out to me, the way that I've been doing it in this iteration of my path is, they send me a link. They send me, I'm working on, I need this help. Can I talk to you? How do you, and we get in touch with each other. I
No.
usually, as I said, I usually get on the phone for about 30 to 45 minutes and I request that they complete the patient questionnaire. That 30 to 45-minute initial communication is, it depends. I work on a sliding scale depending on
Okay.
what people can afford. I slide it from $75 to $150. And that is based on, the time and of course my time in my investment in my career and my path. And then after the initial communication and the completion of the consultation and the patient form, I then determine, when I say we, I mean me and the person's guides, their ancestors, their community, whoever comes to the table, the healing table, to speak on their behalf, says to me, oh, they're ready, or no, actually they need to work on this, this, and this before. Okay, well, let me let them know that,
Yeah.
and from there we decide how involved you want to get in your evolution.
Great. Well, thank you again for being here. One more time, how can we find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram.
Yep.
And you can find me on WordPress, MicaelaCordoba.com.
.wordpress.com/services, right?
Exactly. Very
Good.
good memory,
I
Joe.
got
Thank
have
you
it all
so
up
much.
here. I'm all good. Metaphysician and traditional healer. Reach out. Thank you for being here. Pleasure to see you today. And
Pleasure to
looking
see
forward to
you
the
and
next
pleasure to
time we
be
get to
here.
connect. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. Give thanks.
Same
Ashe
here.
aho. So much munai.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.